Hello and welcome to today's edition of the presidential election, the state of the presidential election as of October the 29th. I'm John Toffelmeyer, and in today's update, we've got a lot of news. There's a ton of polls that came out, mostly state, and added new early voting states, particularly Arizona and Georgia are the most important that I've added. I'm working on one or two others, but this is what I'm adding today. And it's beginning to paint more of a picture of what is going on in this election. So I think Trump has got a solid lead in Nevada. It looks like he's got a lead in Arizona, narrow in Georgia, dead heat in North Carolina. So, but lots to get on. Let's get going with it. And we start with an overview, as we always do, of the polls, what the polls are telling us about the state of the race. And the polls are saying that as of now, using my modeling of the polls, I think it's still 50-50. 50-50, very little change. It's just jiggling up and down. I think there's no change in the electoral college. Some states, Texas has gone in over 8%, so Texas is now in the solid camp for the Republicans. Virginia and Minnesota are now in the leans, less than 4%, right at 4%. So a little bit of a shift. It's like you can feel just a touch of a shift, but not much. And really, at least in the polls, a little bit of some shift, a little bit of shift towards Harris, but in some states. But let's go over it. Starting with Nevada, 0.88 percentage point lead according to my modeling in the polls. Wisconsin, Trump leads by 0.8%. Michigan, 0.9%. North Carolina, 1.5%. Pennsylvania 1.7, Arizona 2.1, Georgia 2.7. So if these numbers are correct, and we've got them lined up in anything that is realistic, Kamala Harris's path to 270 must go through. And I think she's behind, but this is narrow. These are real tight. That goes through Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, and North Carolina. Note it's not Pennsylvania and North Carolina. Those four states will give her 273. So that is a path. That's her path to victory. Trump's path is just holding any of those four states. And these other the other states that he appears to have a larger lead, and that's his path to winning this election. So that's what the polls are telling us. But I'm getting at least a different picture on especially in two very important swing states, that there's really detailed numbers that is painting a little bit different picture, where it appears that Trump has a larger lead. I've been talking about Nevada, but I've added Arizona, and the picture is actually similar. It's similar in Arizona. So let's get on to this part of the video. And this is the latest update. These numbers dropped just about an hour and a half ago. The in-person and mail voting totals as of the end of the day on October the 29th in the state of Nevada. The Republicans now have a 42,000 vote lead in total votes cast by party affiliation. So by party affiliation. Now, as I've talked about, what the polling tells us, that the defections from the Democrats to Republicans and from the Republicans to the Democrats roughly a wash. So it looks like this gives Trump a 43,000 vote margin right now. So the important thing here is it's continued to grow. We've had another day. In-person voting continued to another gain, about 8,000 vote increase in Republican votes in the in-person voting. The Democratic voting and mail-in is offsetting that, but not enough, and the Republican lead continues to grow. The key is what's going on with these are independent voters. Now, my modeling, or that's based on the polling data that I've seen, tells me that Trump should be carrying this group by 47%. Now, if I'm wrong, then the question is, well, and if the Democratic Republican, if this is roughly a wash, as it seems to be, then at least based on this number now, for the Democrats to catch up, they would have to be getting something close to 60% of this independent vote. I'm really skeptical that that's the case, that that's happening. Any rate, let's turn to the number, my modeling using these numbers, and I have Trump up by 52,000 votes, and it is a 6.8% percentage point spread between Harris and Trump. This lead is growing. Again, this is an assumption that Trump is winning in the independent vote. If it's roughly tied, or if Harris has a slight lead, it could be 10,000 less. But it's hard to see anything right now. There's anything other than a solid lead for Donald Trump in this state. As I said, the road for Kamala Harris, I think she has to carry this state. This is a must carry, because it's just hard to see that Georgia, Pennsylvania, states like Georgia, Pennsylvania, and as we'll see, Arizona are much less in reach. I think are much less in reach than should be in this state. So this is getting to be crunch time in Nevada. Well, now let me talk about Arizona. I've just done this in the last 24 hours. This is through Monday. I don't have the numbers for Tuesday yet, but the interesting thing here is when you look at these percentages, they're kind of similar. The Republicans have about an 8-point lead. It's about 130,000 votes, roughly, in your independent vote is roughly the same as in Nevada. But I've gone through and look, when you look at the polling, put the polling together, and you come up with a view, there's more crossover vote Democrats from the Republicans to Kamala Harris than there is from the Democrats voting for Trump in Arizona. It's a little bit different dynamic. There's definitely some defections going on among Republican voters in this state. That seems to be the polls are telling us. They're seeing that in a lot of the polling, individual state polls in Arizona. So I think that's a thing, and that doesn't seem to be happening in Nevada. The other thing is that I have Kamala Harris up. I have her up by about 3 percentage points. I think it's about 47, 44, roughly right there. That it's roughly about 47, 47, 44, 48, 45. That's roughly where I have her. So there's defections from the Republicans to the Democrats. And Harris is leading in the independent vote, this other vote. So, but let's take a look and see what all of that, when you model that together, Trump it's about an 80,000 vote lead. It's a pretty solid lead. It's 5 percentage points, so it's actually less. What's interesting here is that at least this early voting, and again, there could be a lot of changes that could come later, but that the early voting is that Harris is actually, the margin is less in Arizona than it appears to be in Nevada. Now, what's important, I want to emphasize about these two states, and I think these two states, at least they appear to be unique based on the numbers, the data that I have been able to get my hands on and really look over. These two states, most people vote before the election. So there's relatively little. I think Nevada is going to have maybe 15%, 10, 15% day of. maybe Arizona, maybe 20% of the vote, but the vast majority of the votes are going to be cast by election day. So these numbers represent a considerable cross section of the electorate. That's the important thing to remember. So if Harris is going to catch up here, we're going to need to see a change. We're going to need to see some change. And as I say, we don't have the Tuesday numbers. We're going to see the rest of this week. It's going to have to start trending back real quick for her to have a real shot at this. So with that in mind, we're going to move now to the other states, the other states that I've got numbers for, and starting with North Carolina, I've got some new numbers. Where it these figures say it's at about a little bit over 3 million, so 3,040,000 votes. It's virtually a dead heat. Now, I think that these numbers are not as one. It's so close. The other, I think that they're not as indicative. It's not because this is more of an elderly vote. It's not representative of the electorate. So there's a lot of things. This is unlike in Arizona and Nevada, which seems to be pretty much a cross section of both of those states. That's not the case in North Carolina. So we've got the caveat that it's roughly even, doesn't really tell us what's going to happen. There's a lot that's going to unfold, but I have for the 29th, but there's about 200,000 votes that have been announced, but I don't have the details. I don't have the details of party affiliation for those. I've just seen on the University of Florida website that there's more numbers have come in, but we don't have the breakdown by party affiliation for those. So we'll definitely have that. We should have that tomorrow, and hopefully some other updates from this state. It looks very, very tight in North Carolina. Now I'm going to move to Georgia, and Georgia's this has been an interesting analysis because I've had to use ethnic vote rather than party affiliation. Georgia doesn't announce party affiliation. They don't tell you what the party affiliation of the voters, but they tell you the ethnic breakdown, and it's fairly detailed. And I've been able to connect that with the polling, both for whites and blacks, and others. You have to lump others, Hispanics and Asians. They break it down in the early voting figures, but I can't get that. I don't have enough polling data to do that effectively in the in this analysis. So I've had to just lump that together. So keep that in mind. This is a fuzzier. So I've got Trump up by 2 points. Again, I don't think it means that this is necessarily the case, but it's indicative. It's a tight race. It's possibly leaning towards Trump. I'm going to try to take some closer look at especially at some of the Atlanta, the area around Atlanta, to see if I can get maybe a little bit more insight on this. But right now, this is the statewide. This is what we have. This is where we're at here. So tight. Trump might have a slim lead, but it's a long way to go in this state. And finally, I've got Pennsylvania. Not much of an update here. I've got just a little bit. If you remember yesterday, Harris was at 60%, now 59.8. Just Trump is ticked up, but there wasn't a lot of vote that came in. And again, I'm going to be looking to see if there's some local analysis that I can do of places like Philadelphia and Pittsburgh to see if we can get little bit more insight, because these numbers are real early, real vague. It's too early to really say anything about these numbers. So that's where we're at right now. It was an exciting day. Lots of stuff came in, but we've still got a week to go. So it's going to get more intense every day coming in. So if you're excited about this, if you're interested in this, come back for more update. What you're going to get here, I bet you're not getting anywhere else on the internet. So if you like this content, if you think this is interesting and important, please share it. Please share and please like and share. And I look forward to being with you tomorrow and to see you again. So thanks for coming today, and we will see you soon. Thanks. Bye.